He was a doctor, until this happened. He stood before the elite of English medicine when everything spiraled out of control. Laughter echoed through the amphitheater. Instruments clattered to the floor. A dog leapt onto the dissection table, spreading blood, organs, and humiliation. In seconds, that man's career seemed over. It wasn't just a public mistake, it was the confirmation of everything they had always said about him. That he didn't belong there. That he should never have made it that far. In that moment, he stopped being seen as a respectable doctor in the eyes of others. Because something happened. Something that would change not only his path, but the entire history of medicine. But to understand how that moment was even possible, we need to go back much further, to the day he was born rejected by his own mother, too fragile to live, condemned before he ever took a breath. This is the story of William Harvey, and the improbable journey that took him from absolute abandonment to the most decisive moment of his life. England, 1578. A child is born premature, fragile, almost transparent. The mother looks at that tiny body and makes a brutal decision. She doesn't want that son. She doesn't believe he'll survive. And even if he survives, she simply doesn't want him. The father, a successful merchant named Thomas Harvey, intervenes. He holds the baby in his arms and makes a silent promise. That boy will live. That boy will prove everyone wrong. His name is William Harvey. And this is just the first time he'll have to fight to prove his worth. Folkestone, a small coastal town in southeast England, becomes the unlikely setting for the birth of a genius. William grows up small, scrawny, with fragile health that everyone around never tires of commenting on. The other children run, play, fight. William observes. He learns early on that his body is limited, but his mind doesn't have to be. While the other boys dream of becoming soldiers or merchants, William develops an obsession strange for a child. He wants to understand how things work. How blood flows. How the heart beats. How life happens inside a body that everyone considered too weak to exist. At 10 years old, William does something that shocks the family. He captures a dead bird in the garden and, hidden in the barn, begins to dissect it with a kitchen knife. He wants to see the heart. Wants to understand what makes that tiny organ pump life. When his father finds him, instead of punishing him, he notices something different in his son's gaze. This isn't cruelty. It's scientific curiosity in its purest state. Thomas Harvey then makes the second decision that would change his son's destiny. He will invest in the education of that strange boy everyone underestimates. 1593. William Harvey, now 15 years old, enters Cambridge University. It's there that the first major problem of his adult life manifests. He's not like the other students. He comes from a family of merchants, not aristocrats. He's short, thin, with an accent that betrays his humble origins. The other students, sons of English nobility, make sure to remind him of this every day. They call him a sewer rat. A fishmonger's son. An aberration who shouldn't be there. William swallows his pride. He's not there to make friends. He's there to learn. And he learns with a veracity that even scares the professors. But Cambridge, at the end of the 16th century, is trapped in medieval dogmas. The professors teach medicine based on texts from 1400 years ago. They repeat the theories of Galen, the Greek physician who was never questioned. According to Galen, blood is produced in the liver, consumed by the organs, and needs to be constantly replenished. The heart, in this view, is just an organ that warms the blood. There's no circulation. There's no return. Blood simply disappears in the body like water in sand. William listens to these lectures and something inside him screams that it's wrong. But he can't question. Not yet. He's just a poor student in a world that doesn't want him there. 1597. William graduates from Cambridge, but knows his education is incomplete. He needs to go where true medicine is being revolutionized. Italy. University of Padua. That's where anatomists are challenging ancient dogmas, dissecting human bodies, discovering truths that contradict centuries of teaching. William gathers every coin he can. Convinces his father to finance a few more years of study. And leaves for Italy with a small suitcase and gigantic determination. Padua is a revelation. There, William meets Hieronymus Fabricius, a brilliant anatomist who discovered small valves inside veins. Fabricius doesn't know what these valves are for. He theorizes they serve to slow the flow of blood to the extremities. But William observes those structures and sees something different. Those valves point in one direction. Only one. As if blood didn't flow freely, but followed a determined path. A circuit. A circulation. The seed of a scientific revolution is planted in William Harvey's mind. But he still has no proof. Still has no way to demonstrate. 1602. William returns to England with a diploma from Padua and an explosive theory in his head. He needs a position. Needs resources. Needs access to bodies to dissect. And this is where the second major problem of his life emerges. To get a respectable position as a physician in London, William needs to be accepted into the Royal College of Physicians, the most prestigious and elitist institution of English medicine. And they don't want to accept him. He doesn't have the right pedigree. Doesn't have the right connections. And worse, he has ideas that challenge everything they teach. William goes through humiliating interviews. He's questioned about Latin texts he's memorized perfectly, but knows are wrong. He's forced to defend theories he doesn't believe in. And when he finally conquers an inferior position, as an assistant physician, he swallows his pride once again. He'll work in hospitals, treat poor patients, do the dirty work that aristocratic doctors don't want to do. And meanwhile, secretly, he'll continue his research. He'll dissect animals. He'll observe. He'll take notes. He'll discover the truth that will change medicine forever. But then something happens that almost destroys everything. William gets a rare opportunity. A public demonstration of anatomy before the most important members of the Royal College. It's the chance to show his worth. To present his discoveries. To prove he's not just a merchant's son trying to pretend to be a scientist. William prepares everything meticulously. Chooses the animals. Plans each step of the dissection. Rehearses the speech. And on the day of the presentation, when he's about to begin, something unbelievable happens. A dog. A damn stray dog that invades the amphitheater at the exact moment William is making the most important incision. The animal, attracted by the smell of blood, jumps on the table, knocks over instruments, scatters organs across the floor. The aristocratic audience explodes in laughter. William freezes. The years of humiliation, of effort, of fighting to be taken seriously, everything crumbles in that moment. He looks at the laughing faces. Sees the contempt. Sees the confirmation of what they always thought. He doesn't belong in that world. He's a clown. An imposter. A sewer rat who dared to dream too high. And it's in this moment, in this abyss of humiliation, that something breaks inside William Harvey. Or rather, something is forged. He takes a deep breath. Looks at the chaos on the table. And instead of fleeing, instead of giving up, he does something extraordinary. He grabs the dog. The same dog that caused the disaster. And announces to the audience that he's going to use that animal to demonstrate something that has never been seen before. That he'll prove, right there, in that moment, with that stray dog, that all of Western medicine has been wrong for more than 1,000 years. Silence falls over the amphitheater. William works with steady hands. He opens the dog's chest with surgical precision. Exposes the still beating heart. And then, methodically, begins to demonstrate. He shows how the heart doesn't just warm the blood, but pumps. He ties off a vein and shows how it swells on the side closest to the heart. He ties off an artery and shows the opposite. He demonstrates the valves that prevent blood from flowing backward. And then, with devastating clarity, explains what all of this means. Blood doesn't disappear in the body. Blood circulates. In a closed circuit. From the heart to the arteries, from the arteries to the organs, from the organs to the veins, from the veins back to the heart. An infinite cycle. A complete revolution. The audience doesn't know how to react. Some still doubt. Others are genuinely impressed. But William Harvey no longer cares what they think. He just proved to himself that humiliation doesn't define who you are. What defines you is what you do with it. That dog, which should have been his end, became the instrument of his greatest victory. And William realizes something fundamental in that moment. Each rejection, each humiliation, each time he was called weak, inferior, inadequate, all of that wasn't an obstacle. It was fuel. 1628. 26 years after that demonstration, William Harvey publishes Exercitatio Anatomica de Motu Cordis et Sanguinis in Animalibus. A complicated title for a simple and revolutionary idea. The heart is a pump. Blood circulates. And all of medicine needs to be rethought based on this discovery. The reaction is violent. Doctors throughout Europe attack him. Call him crazy, a heretic, a charlatan. His patients abandon him. His reputation suffers. But William doesn't back down. He spent his entire life being underestimated. A few more years won't kill him. And slowly, inexorably, the truth prevails. Other scientists repeat his experiments. Confirm his discoveries. Blood circulation becomes established fact. And William Harvey, the boy rejected by his mother, the student humiliated by his peers, the doctor nearly defeated by a dog, becomes the father of modern physiology. His discovery saves millions of lives. Makes surgeries possible, blood transfusions, cardiovascular treatments. Changes medicine forever. But perhaps the true lesson of William Harvey isn't about blood circulation. It's about the circulation of opportunities. About how life's worst humiliations can transform into the greatest victories. About how being underestimated can be the greatest motivation. William could have given up when his mother rejected him. Could have given up when his peers humiliated him. Could have given up when the dog destroyed his presentation. But he didn't give up. He transformed each no into fuel. Each humiliation into determination. Each obstacle into a stepping stone. The life of William Harvey teaches us that where you come from doesn't determine where you can go. That others' opinions of you are just noise. That a fragile body can house an unbeatable mind. And that sometimes, the dog that invades your presentation and destroys your plans isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. When William Harvey died, in 1657, at 79 years old, he had lived longer than any doctor of the time would expect from a premature child rejected by his mother. He had proven that everyone who doubted him was wrong. And he left a legacy that continues to save lives 4 centuries later. The next time you feel your heart beat, remember. Remember the man who discovered how it works. And remember that he only discovered it because he refused to accept that he wasn't good enough. Because he transformed rejection into revolution. And because he proved that sometimes, humanity's greatest geniuses are those the world tried to destroy, but who simply refused to disappear.